All right, so we're here for another episode of the Reconize Game podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in yet another time. Today, I have somebody super special. I'm going to give you a little bit of story and a little background as to how I know this gentleman. I met him probably around 2018. It was at a Call of Duty event, Call of Duty Anaheim. We all went to dinner, and we're all just sitting there. And, you know, this is where I really kind of knew that this is the type of person that's going to be successful. We were all talking about goals that we wanted to do. And in 2018, this gentleman had the foresight to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Not this is what I want to do, but this is what I'm going to do. I think at that time he was way like under 100,000 on everything, maybe in the 20, 30,000 range area. You fast forward today, and this is probably what I like to call one of the faces of Call of Duty. If you know this person, he's the person that everybody goes to when they want to figure out about a gun or analytics about Call of Duty. I like to call him the godfather of gun, my man, Jgod, my boy. Thank you. Welcome to the Reconize Game podcast, my brother.
What's going on?
Hey, excited. Man, I'm excited, bro. I really wanted to have you, bro. I feel like people's stories and how they got into content creation is very important to show, right? And you're one of the more interesting people that I know. And I'm like, you know what? The perfect guest would be Jgod. You brought your son with you, yep. which is good because, you know, I remember, like I said, downstairs, bro, I remember seeing that kid in 2018. That boy was little. He was barely talking. Now to see him now being 9 years old and not only talking, but he's a real Call of Duty player, like for real.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see and amazing to hold that conversation with him, bro. I really enjoyed that. This ain't about him, but it's about you. Maybe one day we'll get him in. Maybe one day we'll get him in. But so let's get to you. So the first question that I like to ask people when they first come on the podcast, depending on what field they're in, obviously you're a Call of Duty YouTuber, but you're also a gamer.
Yep.
The first question I have for you is, what got you into gaming? Was it a game that you played when you were younger, or like a moment in time where you're like, you know what, I like gaming and this is kind of what I want to do?
Well, I think for me, it always started way back, like way back. Back in like, I don't know, probably 1990.
Okay.
When I was like 2 years old, I think my dad had bought, for whatever reason, he was making good money at the time. He bought a Nintendo, and we had like 60 games. I got to post a picture when I go to my mom. She has a suitcase full of the games like stacked next to each other, and even some of the original cases. But we played back then, and like we just played games back then. We played regular Mario, and then when the Super Nintendo dropped, we got that almost immediately, and we were playing that. And that's kind of more where most of my memorable games come from, because Nintendo was like totally different experience. You couldn't say, I mean, there's so many different things with that. But then we got into it in Super Nintendo. I got into a bunch of RPGs. You played so many variety. Mega Man, like there's so many different games that came down during that window where it was just like, I was hooked on gaming. We'd eventually, when my parents got divorced, we'd go to my mom's. We'd play like the whole weekend. During the week in school, we would just play. Like it would be like we would play games all the time. We'd go to my cousins. We'd do 4-player split screen once that became available. You know, with the 64 and stuff like that. So we were always like console gamers, and it's kind of one of those things that we always did. And when new games would drop, we would play them. We'd rent games even.
Oh man.
And that's funny enough. We rented a Mario RPG.
Oh,
and then like we never took it back.
Hey, I feel like that was what people were doing back in the day, bro. They were renting games and just never taking them back.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of how we got into games, is just kind of through that. And over time, it's evolved. Gaming has evolved a lot. Like we talked about before, is that like my son, he's grown up his entire life with online gaming. Versus us, it was like until I was a teenager before it was like online gaming. Like for Call of Duty came out when like I was 15, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, I missed out 10 years of grinding online against other people, because you think you're good until like you actually play online. Then you're like, 100%. Oh shoot. It would happen. Same thing with my cousin. He was always a better gamer than myself at the time. And then when Halo came out, they would take it to school and they would play like, you know, Thanksgiving week or whatever, they give you like, a half day or whatever. Right. You get a potluck party or whatever, and they would go game, and he would he would smoke everyone, but then when you get into online, it's like, shoot.
Oh, I'm not really.
There's some real dogs.
Right. There's some real people out here.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of evolved so much, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
That's a good story. So you mentioned like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64. So one of the first person shooters that I can remember in that time, because I mean, we're old dogs. I'm a little older than you, but we're the old dogs. Did you ever play GoldenEye?
Yeah. That's what I was saying. When we play 4-player split
Okay.
screen, it was always unfair. Like me and my cousin, we're like a year apart, and then my brother, he's like 4 years older. My cousin, his brother, which is also my cousin, he's 4 years apart. So they're like the same age, and me and my cousin were like the same age.
Right.
So we would always 2v2. We would just smoke them because we were the better gamers.
Yeah, of course.
And like my cousin, who was always better than me, and I was always better than my brother.
Right.
And then he was better than his brother. So
Right.
we would just 2v2. We would smoke them.
Oh, that's so
Smoke
good,
'em.
man. I remember a time like my cousin who you just met, bro. We would play GoldenEye for hours.
Yep.
I mean, that was like my first introduction also into like first person shooters, getting competitive when it came to gaming. And then, then after that, it was like Perfect Dark and games of that nature.
Yeah. They
you know what I
evolved.
mean? Yeah, they definitely evolved. And then, like you said, like where we are now in gaming is just crazy. You know? And then, so we do Nintendo, we do all those things. And then did you play Dreamcast or anything like that?
I never got Dreamcast. It was like an expensive thing at the time,
Right.
and we didn't get Sega Saturn or any of those. Like we always had like somebody would have a party, and then like the one person would have it, and we'd see the games. But it was never like cool, you know, because it was always Nintendo, and then eventually when Sony kind of took over, and then Xbox and Sony kind of battled it out, and we were on PlayStation. And then we switched to 360, and then we went back. So it was kind of one of those things. We kind of went with COD, to be honest, right? When they got the exclusivity, we got to have an Xbox 360.
Yeah.
But yeah, before that, we never played any of those. I think there was like a computer name for a console. It was like Cloud.
Okay, yeah,
or something weird.
like that.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the heck the name was. Somebody will know who's watching.
Yeah,
but
somebody will know.
But it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh man, game is like so different, drastic as how it changes and evolves, and it just, I don't know, it's interesting.
It definitely is. And it's funny that you said, because I think that's like everybody's like arc when it came to like gaming and getting competitive was going from obviously PlayStation. And then when COD came out with the exclusivity, bro, now everybody, bro, I remember that having PlayStation, playing PlayStation, loving it. The Xbox came out. And that was around the time that I started like really getting into like for real gaming. It's like, okay, now I got to get an Xbox. And then we play COD. And then, because I personally for me, I kind of always like Sony a little bit better. But when they had COD, you got to go where COD is.
Yep.
And that's kind of how that went. So now, you do all that when you're younger. And I know your brother, shout out to Uncle B. So now you're doing all of that. And now you get to a point of where like you're being competitive. And that's when COD comes out. That's when COD comes around. And MW2 came out in 2009?
I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Right. It definitely
It was
was
a long time ago. I know COD 4 had the first multiplayer, but even back then, I didn't have people might not realize this, but back in the day, I say 360 is back in the day now, but they didn't have like internet.
Right. You have to have that. You have to buy that that one
the little adapter.
LAN adapter to.
Or you'd hardwire, but nobody
hardwired back then. No, we didn't even know, but
So-
you had to buy that piece. Yeah.
So you think lag is bad now? Like,
oh, bro.
it was bad.
Oh, terrible.
It'd be like, damn, I can't even play the game.
Right, exactly.
So I had that, and I didn't really get good internet at any point until probably like I was actually an adult. So it got to a point where I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is what the game feels like when you actually have good internet. You know, it's kind of like, it feels good. So it kind of evolved from that. But yeah, online gaming is kind of taking it to the next level.
Definitely so. I definitely agree with you because right around Modern Warfare 2 was like when I really started playing. But I can remember playing Modern Warfare 2 and getting my very first nuke on the game. And obviously it was online, bro, but it was different. It's like you said earlier, you think that you're good. Like I would always beat the people in the neighborhood, but then you get online, you're like, oh no, these guys are like the real deal for real.
Yep.
Did you do any Modern Warfare 2?
Well, I played all of them, and the reality is I was always like an above average player, but nothing like crazy good. I always had like hovered around like a 1.7, which
back then was
which is cool, but it's like kind of like mid when you're thinking content creation and stuff like that for in general.
Right.
So it wasn't probably until about IW, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more on later, but that's kind of where I kind of started to quote unquote take it more serious. And that's where I got my first nuke.
Okay.
Like I didn't get nuke. I never even saw nukes in game. Like, cause it was rare.
Right.
Like, unless you were like a 2 KD demon or whatever, you were dropping them regularly.
Right.
But you know, you always saw the leaderboards and you're like, how the hell do people got 6 KDs? What's going on here?
Yeah.
They got to be cheating or something,
bro,
right?
I couldn't think of having a 6 KD back then, bro.
But
That's
then when
crazy.
I actually found content creation, which was during IW, that's when I like saw real players that had like 5 and 6 KD.
Right.
Oh, this is what they're doing.
Right. Well, it's funny
Gross.
it's funny that you say that because I didn't really start getting. I mean, I guess you could call me a little bit more serious during the Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, BO1 days, but I don't think I really got like good until IW. Because I was like, I think to this day it's the highest KD I ever had, and that's when I started, realizing what KD was and how you have to keep it up. Because I think I went back and looked. I think I had like a over 4 KD in that game, bro.
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah, because that was and to me that was like the last time that there was an actual skill gap in the game.
It was a big skill gap. Yeah, movement,
was
skill gap. Obviously, other games have had it with the later ones. I think probably BO4 is probably the last one that really had felt like it had a legitimate skill gap.
Right. Yeah.
For different variables, but yeah.
Yeah, I bro. And I think IW got so much hate.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, you look back on it now, you realize IW was actually a really good game. But during the time, I mean, which is with every COD, if you think about it.
Well, yeah, I think there was a little bit of burnout because they had already done Advanced Warfare.
Yeah.
BO3 is regarded as probably one of the best jetpack CODs out of all of them,
100%.
Almost universally.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think it kind of got swayed a little bit. That's probably one of the times where YouTubers did influence it, where the views just weren't as good. So then they just stayed on BO3 for like a second year.
Yeah.
And that allowed content creators like Swag. He stayed with IW and K3. And there was a few others that stayed on IW and they saw success while other people stayed on BO3 and saw success.
Yeah. That's around the first time that I ran into Swag too. Now that we're talking about Swag was IW, bro. I used to play that game. I used to like see this kid. And this before I knew who he really was.
When he was still Prince Lightskin?
Yeah, when he was still Prince Lightskin, bro. Bro, that dude, like I would see him and I'm like, oh, I'm about to kill him. And then he would do something and it would be, bro, it was so crazy. And that's when I really realized, like I said, like online is really different because it's like, I used to try to make up excuses like, oh, there's no way, it got to be internet, but it wasn't. He was just a demon.
Because even with bad internet, those people are still
demons.
No,
they're demons at the game, bro. Yeah. And I never was that good at the game. I mean, I was above average, but I was never that good at some of these kids are like
if I had a 10-year, if I took it back 10 years, maybe.
100%. But some of these kids are just like amazing. And that's also, why I think it's like, not funny, haha, but funny, like more like ironic. Like now you have your son who is a gamer and he's actually good at the game. Like I see some of his clips on Twitter or wherever you post it. I'm like, oh no, this kid is legitimately real deal good. And we're, this whole time him and I are having conversations about Apex. We're having conversations about COD and how he doesn't like playing COD anymore because XYZ. And now he plays Apex and he's telling me a strategy. I'm like, yo, this like, I wasn't thinking like that video gaming when I was that age.
And it wasn't even possible.
It wasn't even possible. But even if I were to like go back and think if online gaming was around when we were that age. I couldn't visualize me being into it as much as he is. What do you think is the reason why, outside of you being a content creator, that he takes gaming so seriously? Just because that he just grew up with it, or is it he just has a real genuine love?
Well, I think I did start him off like really young. Okay. Like I said, I started when I was 2, so I never saw any like shame in playing video games. Like there's a negative stigma that's slowly kind of gone away, especially when you have multi-millionaires like a Ninja that popped up, or Nick Merckx, or even now Swag or whatever, where they made it mainstream to be thing. But before, it was kind of like, oh, you're just wasting your time playing video games. Well, sometimes that's just an outlet for people. Yeah. But back then, what I did is I even bought, like, when he was like 3 or 2, I bought the controller from Amazon that's specifically for kids, like little tiny controller. So he started off playing games really young. I never really put like hard restrictions on, hey, you can only play for like 2 hours and then you're off. Like, as long as you're doing your homework, you're brushing your teeth, you ain't got no cavities, you wake up for school, you're good. And then, you can play games as long as you want. I don't care. Just, it is what it is. Right.
And I think that's so important, especially nowadays, because like you said, these kids are like, they're becoming millionaires by playing video games. Not everybody's kid is going to be your kid. Yeah. Because your kid is really, really good. But I think it's important for, parents to encourage that type of outlet. And, if they happen to be good, then maybe they can make a career out of it. And I think, Z. I always say Z. It's X. I don't know why I always say Z.
Well, just because the Zans are part of it.
I always say Z. I mean X. X, like, I feel like, if he stays on the trajectory that he's on, he's definitely going to be somebody that could be in the content creation. And I asked him, because you were there, I asked him, I said, hey, Do you see yourself in the future becoming a content creator? And he wants it. Like he's like, yeah, bro, I definitely want
Well,
this.
the thing that I've done too is that like I think a lot of people want to rush it early and try and push like the content creation right away. And for me, I visualize like the enjoyment you can still get from video games. Like he's just playing the games for 100% fun. No work, no thinking, no thought process, no nothing. And then you could just enjoy the games for what it is. It's not like, oh, you got to keep playing COD because, you know, you get more viewers on COD. No, we don't need to make business decisions.
Right.
And maybe when he's 10, 12, 13, I can be like, all right, cool. Now you're going to do what you enjoy. Let's go that route and make it work, you know?
Right.
So you can have a little bit more fun with it versus pushing it. Like at the end of the day, I know he's going to be a good gamer and he's super charismatic naturally. So it's going to be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
If that's what he wants to do.
Right. I mean, at this point and right now at this age, he's saying that's something he wants to do. And he definitely has charisma because as soon as he hopped out of the car, he's talking to me, oh, you know this and that. And I'm like, and I was just sitting there watching and listening. I'm like, yo, this is amazing. Because I try to get my kids in the game. And my kids somewhat are into gaming, but not like that, though. Nothing like that.
Yep.
You know, and it is definitely amazing to see. So, you know, now you're playing Call of Duty. You have your son playing Call of Duty. And then around 2017, right, is when you got into content creation.
Yeah.
So discuss what are some of the things that pushed you into that direction.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of different factors. I know that, like, I think a lot of people know about my backstory a little bit. Yeah. But the reality is like I was working in sales. I had a full-time job. I was married. My son was only like almost 2, and basically we were just living normal life. And then my wife ended up getting killed at work. It was part of it was national news. It was considered a terrorist attack. The people involved were like part of ISIS or some crazy.
Oh, I didn't know that was it was an ISIS thing. Okay.
Well, yeah, it was kind of the backstory on that is literally they were coworkers.
Right.
Like they worked there.
Okay.
And they had a baby shower for them, and like it was crazy. And then basically they went to work function. They had a break. He left, went, picked up his wife, picked up his baby, dropped him off at the mother-in-law or whatever, and then came to work and shot up the place.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a like craziness because obviously it feels surreal in the moment and all those things. So I took about a month off after that happened, and like I went back to work. And then I worked for like 4 months, and because of how everything happened, there was life insurance, there was financial comforts that came after that part, and I didn't have to work. Like essentially I made enough to pay my bills, and I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll just enjoy my son. He's only 2. Let's enjoy it. So I take time off, potty trained. We're going to the store every so often. You know, he gets to pick out his toys. We're going to Disneyland. We're just being like in the moment, enjoying it. And then probably about a year goes by, and then I'm like kind of getting bored. I like to work. Right. So like I don't consider work, but you know what I mean? Like you're actively engaging yourself in thought and working through a process. So probably about a year goes by, and I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to start going to school again. I'm going to finish my degree. So I do that. And then I go, you know what? I got some time. Let me try and get good at Call of Duty. So I start watching some videos, and I'd never really watched YouTube before that. Right before this though, before I found out YouTube, I was playing a game called The Division.
Love that game.
And it was super hype right at the beginning. It was probably one of the most hyped games in a while. And I started watching this YouTuber by the name of Skill Up.
Okay.
And if you guys aren't familiar, he kind of does what Exclusive Ace did.
Okay.
Or does.
Right.
But he did that for The Division.
Right.
And now he does like a variety game reviews, and he's still very articulate, smart, great reviews, by the way, on all kinds of gaming from Australia or whatever. So as soon as I got back into COD, Division died, and I was like, you know what? Let me get back into COD. Let me improve. First video I watch is like how to get a nuke by Exclusive Ace. He actually put out a video. And then with YouTube, you know, you go kind of down the recommended rabbit hole, and then I improved. I went from like a 1.7 in the game to I was able to move my KD like at the end of the life cycle from a 1.7 up to like a 2.5.
Really good.
But the weekly was always like a 3.7, 3.8. Like, so I was improving week over week. And that's where I found all kinds of content creators, whether it's T-Memory, Noir Missile, Elite Shot, K3, you know, all these dudes, you know? Yeah. And then I go, you know what? I have a vision kind of like what I want to do for content, and I want to help people improve. And I think I can do it because it worked. Like I'm a living example that it worked because I did that from there to there. I went almost over doubled. Right. So in around July of 2017, I go, you know what? Let me start a YouTube channel. I can do this. It shouldn't be that hard. right? Like I know what I'm doing, right? And I was going to do it just as a hobby. And I was like, I'll just do it for fun. And then I was still going to school. And then I was posting like 2 times a week or something crazy, something low. And then eventually it got around to November. I posted some Destiny videos and just kind of get my feet wet because I knew the new Call of Duty was going to drop, World War II. So I said, you know what, let me go full and enjoy it. And then probably after December, I already got a payout of like $100 because, you know, the minimum.
Right. Yeah. It's $100. Yeah.
Then YouTube changed their monetization. But then I did the math and I was like, okay, if I get this amount of views, I don't have to go into teaching and I can make my own schedule. Because teaching, you know, entry level, you probably make 45,000, 60,000,
right.
You know, on the top end if you got masters, and then through seniority, maybe you make 90K or something.
Right.
Unless you go to administration, you're not going to make 6 figures.
Right.
And in my head, I always want to make 6 figures. I get into it and then I start interacting with other content creators and I was like, okay, the numbers on that I'm a numbers guy. So I was like, oh, all I need is that many views. I just need to post that many videos then. Right. So then I started posting a video a day.
Wow.
You know, and that's really all it switched because I go, okay, if I post 1 video, I get 100 views, I gain 3 subs. Well, if I post 7 videos, then, you know, you do the math.
Right,
and I was like, I just need to be posting videos.
Right.
So I did that. And then I had 1,000 subscribers. Then I hit 10,000 in the beginning of BO4.
Right.
And then at the beginning of 2019, Modern Warfare, I was able to bump that up to 100K.
Yeah.
And then the Cold War integration happened. And then from the Cold War, that's where everything took off like lightning.
Like
I gained like
you were out of there.
700K subs in a year.
Yeah, you were out of there.
So yeah. And a lot of things dominoed during that time that really helped. But that's kind of how I got into it. I mean, if the thing never had happened with my wife, I wouldn't be making content. Like,
right.
I would have never even probably came around to I wouldn't have had a year off, like to think and process and the free time and the money to literally go, okay, you know what? I need an Elgato. I'm going to buy an Elgato, you know, like,
right.
You know, like it's $100. Okay, cool. Versus being paycheck to paycheck, kind of slowly working our way up and, you know, having a house and a kid and life. It's tricky. So, I mean, things kind of worked out the way they did. I mean, obviously it could have been better.
Right. No,
but you know, I made do with the situation and it's worked out for better than it could have worked out.
100%.
You know? So
very, very, and that's why I thought it was so important for you to come on because like I said in the beginning, your story is very interesting because of a major life event that happened is what kind of pushed you into doing what you do now. And you're obviously highly successful at it because like I said, man, you're the godfather of gun. Anybody that wants to know anything about a gun or anything that has to do about Call of Duty, they run into your channel. And I thought it was interesting because it's like most people don't think the way you do. And what I mean by that is when they're first coming into content, everybody wants to be let me get the 5KD or let me get the 4KD. Let me do this. Let me do that. But you thought about it in a different way. He's like, you know what? I improved and this is something that I know that I'm already good at.
Yep.
So I can make videos on improvement. And I thought that was interesting because like I said, most people want to get the nuke or whatever the highest kill streak is and have the most kills. But your perspective was a little different. Why do you think that is?
Well, my degree was going to be into teaching math. Okay. Like I always, when I was like, I don't know, 2nd, 3rd grade, I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
Like I wanted to be a math teacher. And as I got older, I wanted to be able to teach calculus and get my master's and maybe teach at a university just because I always enjoyed the concept of teaching and like going through that process. And especially with math, it's like facts, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very like, this is a matter of fact. This is how you do it. And that's how it works. When I got into content creation, like I knew that it wasn't the swags or the K3s in terms of skill. Like you mentioned earlier, like we know that we weren't there. Like I was 10 years behind. I was already 27, 28, maybe 20, almost 28, right? Like when I started. So like I'm way behind. These dudes are like 19.
Yeah,
like, bro, I already know better, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to use my quote unquote business acumen from working in business. And I was a manager. I used to do sales and I used to coach people, write them up and like, you know, so you have these tough conversations. So, but I also understand business drivers and what would work. So I kind of thought like, okay, what could I do and how could I do it differently? And then I spent hours upon hours watching YouTube videos of how to grow a YouTube channel, titles, thumbnails, descriptions, tags, everything. And then I would watch the successful YouTubers and I would find out what they were doing, like how they did it. And like, kind of pick a little bit from here and here and here and here, and then you make it your own, and it evolves, right? So that's kind of the route I went. And even though, like, if you go to watch any of my World War II videos during that time, they're all like a form of quote unquote clickbait, because what I would do is I knew that the driver for Call of Duty was always loadouts. So you'd go, okay, cool, you're going to do the Sten, boom, here's the Sten best class setup. But then I would give people that within the first 5 seconds, 10 seconds of the video. So sometimes if you watch those videos, and there's no intro. It literally is play, and it's like the best end class setup is this, 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 and this. It's on screen. Boom. Now for the rest of the video, I'm going to talk about how I play the game, showing off the strengths and weaknesses of this gun, essentially giving people a tutorial without them knowing they clicked on a tutorial. And then hopefully they stick around and trust what I have to say. And more often than not, when people would watch those videos, they would improve because it would copy what I'm saying, and then it would legitimize what I was saying because they improved. So it kind of like ingrained this value that those other people were not providing, but they weren't trying to. So, fair enough. And then there was an entertainment value that I wasn't providing, possibly that they were, and it's just a different avenue. So I was able to go that route. And I even tried to like mimic some of the stuff Exclusive Ace was doing. And he was and still is on a different level in terms of his presentation of the data, that like I did it. I spent like 12 hours kind of learning like how I could do it. And then I put out the video, flopped.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, cool. That's not the time. So eventually I kind of came into my own and it evolved, but I did that for a while. I focused only on multiplayer. We didn't have a battle royale at the time. And even when Blackout came out, I really wasn't into Blackout, even though it was cool at times. Right. And then it kind of evolved as time went on, and it kind of got to a certain point. And luckily for me, when Warzone was a thing, Exclusive Ace kind of stuck to multiplayer, or else like we would have been in the same lane. We would have been in the same lane. Mm-hmm. However you want to look at it that way. At least this one we're in different lanes, but we're going in the same direction. Right. So which is cool. Like obviously I respect him for everything he's done with COD. Of course. And it's kind of one of those things that, it's just evolved over time.
It definitely has evolved over time.
And what I always did is I always tried to min-max like the information. So one of the things that I always tried to do is I abridge it, shortened it, and focus on X, Y, Z that are the most important. I could talk about probably 27 things on a weapon, but I'm gonna focus on the 3 that most matter to people. Right. Like, okay, how's the TTK? Right. Boom. All right, is it good? Boom. Like, and abridge those, and then just get that information out faster. And that's one thing that separated myself a lot from other content creators too, is that I think a lot of times newer content creators don't realize this, but if you're not first, you're last. So patch notes would come out, and I would do a patch note video, and I would get mine out 10 minutes. People were like, well, how's the video get so many views? You just read the patch notes. Well, the reality is people aren't watching the video. They're listening to the video. They're in their car on their way to work. They want to know what the hell happened with the patch notes. They're at work. They have it up on their second monitor. They're not actually watching it. They just want you to read the patch notes. So it doesn't matter all this production value on. They're literally just listening. The screen's muted, basically. Like the screen's not visible. When you have to get over those instances, it's like, oh, I don't understand how that works. I mean, I understand now. Right. But back then I didn't. I was like, why the hell does it get so many views? Because the reality is it's super simple, straightforward. I'm skipping to the important parts, and I'm not trying to stretch a video to 10 minutes.
That was a thing back in the day.
It's so bad.
That was just such a thing back in the day. Mm-hmm. Oh, this video has to be 10 minutes. It has to be 10 minutes. And you took it upon yourself to be like, you know what? This video doesn't have to be 10 minutes. It just has to have information. And they have to be able to access the information quick and in a hurry.
Yeah. And almost principled, like I kind of cost myself some money sometimes because of that, is there would be videos where I don't look at the length of them and say I have to hit a certain length. I never stretched video ever. What would happen is I would do a video, and now it's 8 minutes or whatever that you need to hit, and it would be like 7:52. Right. I'm like, guess what? It's going up at 7:52, and YouTube's going to add the 1 second they always add for every video, and it's going to be 7:53. And people were like, oh, well, you could have added 8 seconds to get double the revenue. Literally double. Yeah, it is. And I'm like, but then I'd have to stretch the video, so I'm not gonna do that. Like, sorry.
And I appreciate that integrity, because like I said, man, you just want people to have the information. Yeah. And it's important for the content creators that are new, or even some of the ones that may or may not know. You hear what this man said. If you're not first, you're last. Yeah. Period. And the way that content creation has kind of evolved, and it's interesting to hear you say that, getting the class setup out in the first 10 seconds of the video. Because you remember there was a time where it's like, nah, they got to watch the whole video and then they get the class setup at the end. And I never thought of it that way, where, you know what, let me just say this class setup and then I'm going to do the video.
Yep.
And that's kind of probably why you got, you know, your watch time crazy, because you're straight to the point. There's no, oh, let me skim through. Oh, okay, here is where
Sometimes you'll get a comment still be like, where's the class setup? Because
Right.
they're expecting it
to
somewhere.
be in the back.
I'm like, bro, it was in the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You missed it. I don't know
Right.
how.
I don't know how you missed
But
it. It was right
it.
there.
Yeah.
I guess that's true, because they want to know what the class setup is. They're going to usually go all the way to the end of the video, because that's what content creators were doing.
Yeah. And I think it's changed quite a bit too because of the popularity of TikTok and shorts,
Right.
that the attention spans have changed dramatically.
Right.
And the reality is those loadout videos can be chopped up and put into a 20-second video. And there's no real reason to watch a 20-minute video of those. So a lot of those views have gone down just organically from that type of like viewership. So it's up to content creators to adapt. But even like, for examples, the thing I was talking about earlier, where if you're not first, you're last, is I see content creators that are much smaller. And what they'll do is they'll go and let's say the new raid comes out, brand new content. It's not like super hype or anything, but literally they'll play the raid. They have fun playing the raid. And then it's not on their YouTube channel until like 9 days later, because they got to send it to an editor. They got to send it to the thumbnail person. Guess what? That video is a flop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how good it is or whatever your hype. If you were trying to get that initial hype, you missed it. Like that wave is gone. It passed. It needs to be there within like 6 hours of it happening. Of course, the quality might be lower, but guess what? People are going to see you. And in the other video you spend a little bit more quality on, well, those people are there for that one now.
Right.
You know?
There's the game in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. He just gave you the key to YouTube, and well, not necessarily YouTube, but content creation in
At
general.
least with Call of Duty. But
Right.
yeah.
That's the game. You know what I'm saying? Being first, or as first as you can be. Because, you know, people with that mindset, they're going to do it too. So as long as you're in that wave, you're going to get the views that you kind of want to get.
Yeah.
And people are going to see your content. And it's funny because not a lot of people think about it that way.
Yep.
Because I know I didn't. I'd never thought of it that, well, I don't want to say never, but there was a point in time where that wasn't on my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to get, you know, when it came to multiplayer, I don't know, what was it, 40 kills. I'm trying to get 40 kills. And until I get the 40 kills, I'm not posting the video.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, that's where the difference comes in, and where your mind thinks, and where, like, I would say 90% of other people's mind thinks, I want to be the high kill guy. No, it's not about being the high kill guy when it comes to YouTube. It's about getting your content out there, people seeing it, people clicking on it, retention, eventually making money is what it really comes down to.
Well, it's interesting too, because I talk to a lot of other YouTubers, and especially they do loadouts, and their retention will be pretty low. And then you have somebody like newer to the space, which is like Sally is a dog. I don't know if you know him.
I do know who that person
but
is.
he's huge on TikTok, and he has like 800K on YouTube, primarily through shorts, but he's popped off a lot recently on his other stuff. And he had a video where he showed the retention. It was like 7 minutes on a 12-minute video. So that's a huge W.
That's a major
Huge,
W.
right? And I go watch the video, right? He gets 3 kills with the gun. And I was like, people are way overthinking this.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, he's a very talented editor, great personality, all the other intangibles. But I'm talking about, you got those too, but somehow you're missing the mark.
Right.
You know, it's like you're overthinking it.
Yeah, and that's, you know, where I started watching like people like Iron.
Yep.
Like, for me, and I and that's what lets me know that like the way content is consumed now is so much different. Because people like him, I will click on his stream, and it's no disrespect to him. You know, him doing what he does is great for him. It works for him. Mm-hmm. Like that type of gameplay style, it didn't sit well with me. I couldn't win a game with 3 kills and be like, all right, I did my job. And you know, what you're saying, which is what content actually should be, is not what you want to make it per se, which it is, has some degree to do with what you want to do. But also, if you're trying to do this as a career and do this as a business, you kind of got to give them what they want to see. All right. So one thing that I do want to go back to is, you know, obviously the story of how you got into content creation. And outside of everything that's happened in that situation, you know, with the timely passing of your wife and just that whole time in your life, now you're left to be a single father. And I know what that's like because, you know, I'm a single father. I got 2 daughters that I'm trying to raise on my own. Do you see anything that is kind of like hard for you on top of trying to be a content creator and trying to be a father?
I don't know. I think sometimes there's instances. I mean, I do get help from family. That's one thing that's been nice is I do have a pretty large family that's willing to help and participate, jump in, those types of things. But I think like early on, like it was very hard. I would lose sleep not because of like stress or anything, but it's because I'm like, okay, I have a certain dedication I have to put towards work.
Right.
But then on top of that, I have to put in time to take care of my son. So I would game and record and edit when he would sleep. So then it would be like one of these weird dynamics. But now he's much older. He's not necessarily as mature as I would want, to be at that point. But I think he kind of gets an understanding of, okay, well, he has to do X, Y, Z, and he at least gets it.
Right. It's funny because I was watching you stream, and I don't usually consume a lot of Call of Duty content as much as I used to, but I am in your stream a lot and other people's streams too, and I don't really type all the time. The reason why I asked you this question because I saw you, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. You're like, I got to get off because I got to go get my son. You kind of, I've seen over time, you kind of actually found that balance now with being a content creator and being a father. And I think that's not only amazing, but I think it's needed because, like for someone like me that is about gameplay, it's like, I got to get off this game. You like, no, I'm going to do what I got to do. And I'm just done.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I think obviously now it's easier because he is older. He could jump on the game and he's good. In terms of food, he can go to the fridge and grab something if he needs or whatever. So he's a little bit more autonomous in that way. Obviously, he's still a child. So there's a little bit of balance there. But it's not easy all the time, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. Do you get a sense of pride knowing that your son, not only does he play Call of Duty and he's, quote unquote, following in your footsteps, but like he's actually like good at the game.
Yeah, it is nice because like it's almost in a certain way that I wish I would have known what I know now, but like 15 years ago.
Right.
Maybe even like 20 years ago almost, because now I'm 34, going to be 35.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like I could give him literally anything he needs or wants to do whatever he needs or wants. And if he wants to do content creation or he wants to get a PC, like we can get him one. And we could plan that out right. Obviously, certain things do have to fall into place to make it work out the right way. But it is nice to be able to just give him whatever opportunity he needs or wants. And content creation has done that because, I've had some success and, I think I've been able to learn a lot and, go to different functions and socialize. And not just with people that are like large content creators, but all kinds of different content creators and in different spaces and different games and all these different things. So you learn a lot and you're able to diversify your income in that way too. So even if YouTube isn't popping, like right now, it ain't crazy because, Warzone 2 ain't popping. Then you got these other ways to diversify your income. So you're still not stressing.
Right.
And I think that's been good that like literally if he's like, hey, I need this, boom, we go get it. It's like,
and me being a father, and I think fathers just in general, like as somebody that's responsible for another life, like that is an amazing feeling. Being able to take care of the things that you need to take care of when you need to, or even when you want to, you know what I mean? Like being able to go out and buy your son this game or this computer, shoot anything, I think, as a man, that is a sense of pride. And you touched on Warzone, and I do want to get to Warzone.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to get to Warzone is because around Modern Warfare 2019, and Warzone coming out is like when you really started being the guy.
Yeah. When Modern Warfare initially dropped, it was a new experience. It was a lot of hype because of the name, and there was a lot of diversity because we had the 5 attachments and there was like 80 attachments per gun. So there was a lot of new stuff, and I was able to test stuff in private match and be able to put out content before all these sites popped up, like True Game Data, which I would consider him a good friend in terms of content creation, and he has his site where he was able to amplify based off of that. And then now you have Sim GG for all their site data. And, you had exclusive Ace.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like one of those things where I was able to kind of like do my thing in a different way than Ace, but we still kind of came to the same conclusion because it's both multiplayer. And then it really started to deviate, even though we're on the same road, we kind of taken a little different path. Right when Warzone dropped.
Then with the integration of Warzone, like I said in the beginning, bro, like if anybody wants to know anything about anything, they're coming to Jgod. From the biggest creator, you got people like Swag, Nick Merckx. Everybody is saying, yo, what did Jgod say about this gun? What did Jgod say about this gun? Not even those bigger guys, but even like the smaller guys, yo, let me go on Jgod's video. And me, like I said, I don't really like consume a lot of Call of Duty content. Even like when I was a Call of Duty content creator, I wasn't watching a bunch of people, just like the homies. But like even me, bro, wait, let me go see what Jgod said about this thing.
And it's been one of those things. Like I know that when we've gone to functions, I actually got to talk to Tony, which runs True Game Data, and he was talking about like, well, if the site's automated and all this stuff, and I said, well, you're underselling like the value you bring to the table. Like, and this is something that I think a lot of people underestimate is how important it is. Is like you can have all the data in the world, and you can have the data, and what are you going to do with it? Like the person has to be able to interpret the data to make it digestible for other people. And regardless of where I get the data now, because now it's mine, so it's available, I'm still very good. I would say that's one of the strong suits I have is interpreting the data and being able to explain it in a way that makes sense to other people. And that's where the real values come through. It wasn't me testing for 12 hours in a day to see the bullet velocity on pistols or whatever, or rifles. That wasn't my value, that was just a byproduct that got, the data that, that allowed me to distribute that information. Right. So I think there's with that's kind of how it's evolved, and it became where like I get a random DM from, hey, what's the fastest killing, whatever. Cause then I can use that in my title or, can it one shot if they don't have plates, content creators get kind of like creative with titles.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's very, very true. Cause a lot of times people go to your video and they're like, oh, okay. Oh, Jgod said this is going to be a one shot, or Jgod says this is going to be that. And like what you say is like law now. You could make up anything, be like, you know what? You could use the Bren to blah, 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 blah. And there's like, well, that's not really my favorite gun. But since Jgod said it,
that happened one time for reals. I actually made it an error in my math.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I made an error and I miscalculated, and it was with the FR556.
Okay.
And it was like the TTK was like 200 milliseconds faster than it was supposed to be. So then all the content creators for like 3 days were using it.
Oh, bro, I remember that time.
Yeah.
Oh, bro,
but it wasn't meta. It wasn't.
Right,
it was,
right.
but I was, my mistake influenced it.
Right.
And it was just like a thing.
Yeah.
And it was what it was. But it's kind of cool.
It is because, like I said, so how does that feel like being the guy that everybody comes to? Because like and I know I keep saying it, and I know it's getting a little redundant for the people that are watching this, but like you really are the person that people like, I got to see what this guy is doing. And to think when you first started playing Call of Duty to where you are now, what has that transformation been like? And how does that feel like from an emotional standpoint?
Well, it's kind of nice in a certain way. Like I kind of hear it, and it's kind of funny to hear and think about, but it happened gradually. It didn't happen like overnight. I think the critical thing happened when Cold War got integrated into Warzone, because up into that I was doing stat stuff, but it wasn't like, oh my God, it's different. And I think Exclusive Ace was still actively posting Warzone stuff because he was still enjoying the game. But after the Caldera thing happened, it was like, oh, none of the stats match. Like, not even close. Like, they're completely different. This gun says it helps strafe speed. It doesn't. Right. Oh, this gun says it's for bullet velocity. It's not. This one says nothing about bullet velocity, but it does.
Right.
And it was like, oh, shoot. So it was a kind of a domino effect where you had, I was able to test some things. I spent hours testing. And there's a lot that goes into that. But then sometimes people don't realize there's a lot of hours of testing stuff to test like a theory that somebody said they'd said. But then you find out that there's nothing. So you can't make a video on nothing. So you kind of lose that time. You don't get it back. But it was nice during that time because literally everything I tested was something that could be making a video on, and that helped. So whether we had the DMR using the titanium barrel that said nothing about bullet velocity or it was just fire rate, it was like broken. And it was legitimately broken on top of the fact that the gun was broken. So it was like, oh, boom, this is it. And what happened is my videos started popping off at that time. And I remember this was before like I got followed by a lot of bigger names. Right. And it was like on stream, Teep is streaming. I only heard this after the fact, kind of what happened. But Teep is streaming and everyone in his chat's like, Jgod said. And he's like, I don't know who the hell Jgod is.
Right.
You know? And it was no disrespect. He just don't watch YouTube and like that, right? They said, this is it. And he goes, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to use this. And he tests it for himself, at least hand testing. Mm-hmm. Pro players are very good at like
everything.
Yeah. So they're able to figure out like, boom, just based off feel, not even like hard, this is this, you know? Mm-hmm. And he was like, damn, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, boom. All right, cool. So he drops a follow. And then with Twitter, a lot of times you can tell like like when you click on someone's profile, it says who follows them.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shoot, okay, cool. And so that was like a domino effect. And then you got like people like Carmo follow or whatever. And then one day it's like Nick Merckx follows because Swag follows, and you know, it's all these other things, and it's like a domino. And then like when Nick Merckx hit the follow and then he tweeted at me, that was like, oh shoot, this is real. This is real. What's going on here? Yeah. And it was like different after that. And it was like, he would even talk about it on stream and with Tim the Tap Man, and all of a sudden Tim the Tap Man follows. Yeah. And it's just like one of those things that kind of grew over time. And it was like, oh damn, this is like surreal, because for the longest I was watching all these people and it was like, there was a huge disconnect.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, that's cool. Not like we're buddy will hang out, I get it, but it's kind of like cool. The respect is there, and these are grinders. These guys have been grinding for a decade, you know? Yeah. So it's kind of like nice to sense of achievement, validation. Well. And then it kind of like just put that stamp of approval that like, oh, he was right on these 7 things in a row. So guess what? I'm going to assume he's right on the next one. Yeah. And that's kind of where that went. And they eventually got Cold War together. And then we never had a break like that again, like where the game was completely broken. Right. But for those like 4 or 5 months, it was fire. I was getting like 30 to 50,000 followers on Twitter. Bro. Like on YouTube, I gained 130,000 subs in 1 month. Bro. And it was like, holy, you couldn't like, you were like on an all-time high all the time. Yeah, bro. And like you couldn't lose.
Bro, and like I was saying off camera, and then that was around the time where like, it didn't matter what you did, bro. And I made that joke with my cousin. This dude could post a video of him just sitting in front of the computer screen, and it's going to get 800,000 views.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it made 0 sense. And I would post a video and I'd be like, damn, I didn't think that would do that. Like, let me try something else. All right, damn, that too. Like, it was crazy. It was a really crazy time. And like, obviously I appreciate that time that it happened. And we'll probably not see that like in Warzone again, maybe in a different game. Yeah, maybe. Obviously Warzone has a lot to do to get back on the right track. In terms of popularity and all these other things, I think it'll be a while. It may be even it might not even happen with this one. It'll happen with Treyarch when they do whatever they're doing. But it'll be interesting. Can see how that path goes.
It will. And on that note of Warzone, you get a chance to play the stuff early. Obviously, you're being Jgod.
Talking about COD Next.
COD Next. Yeah. You get a chance to go play the games early, and you get invited to all these things. Not to put you in a bad position, because I've heard you be critical of the game before. Yep. You're critical of the game, not only in videos, but also on Twitter. And you probably don't know the answer to this question, but like, I don't understand why I don't listen to people like you.
Well, I think sometimes it's like, I think they're scared to have people that early in development, because by the time we were at COD Next, there's almost nothing they could change. Right. Like it takes them 6-8 months. I don't even know how long the development process is for a specific change to actually go into effect. Like the game's huge. Yeah. Like a lot of people make a comparison to Apex, but like, it's 60 players on Apex. We're talking about 150 on a map that is huge. It's a totally different beast. So I can understand some technical challenges with that. But there's certain things that like, I feel like that's also helped me in my YouTube side of it, is that I started off as a gamer that only played COD for fun for every year, and I didn't make content about it. So I see the extreme casual perspective of somebody who just played it, prestige like a couple times, and there you're good. I was never max prestige. I never dropped nukes. So I'm totally a casual. I can relate to that. And I feel like that's still relatable. And when I was helping people improve, then it was like, okay, cool. So there's relatable like on the progress. And then I know content creators that are ultra sweaty, but that's not me. Right. So I got the full perspective. So a lot of times when I'm weighing in on a topic, it's not usually from my personal perspective. Because if I wanted to make the game just for me, it would look completely different. Right. If I'm trying to make it for everyone, it's going to be different. And if it's only for sweats, which would be a ranked play, it's going to be completely different. Right. But I can usually objectively look at it from all 3 of the angles, you know? From my own, what would I personally like? Right. What would casuals like? Right. And usually I end up being pretty spot on, even if I'm like, for a small community, it's like, oh, the melee people would probably like this, or the sniper people would probably like that. And it's not 100%, but most time I usually align pretty solid with what would work. And it's been proven time and time again where inevitably they come back around and do what I thought they would do anyways. Right. Most recently with like Fortune's Keep, for example, day one, I was like, the map plays good. It just needs 50 players. By the end of Fortune's Keep, guess how many players it had?
50 players.
You know what I mean? But I said that in the first like hours of playing it. Like, so I think I have that perspective that helps validate sometimes my thoughts, and people just agree in that sense too.
So I agree with what you're saying. Like a lot of times we've been talking at events and a lot of the things that I've heard you say have been pretty spot on. What are some of the things that, because the new season of Warzone 2 is out in just a couple days. Have you seen any improvements in that you think that should have been improved?
Well, I think there's going to be some minor things in like the blogs and stuff like that has been very non-descriptive. I think one of the biggest things that people are concerned about is the weapon difference, and everyone's running the RPK, Fennec, X13s. Essentially, that's it. Like there's no variety. And I feel like they've taken way too long for something that simple. Like I talked about earlier, I said the game is very complex. It's really hard to change stuff. Like if somebody wants faster movement, that's not as easy as just faster movement.
Right.
But weapons tuning is a lot easier. They just change numbers and boom, done. It's into the thing. They put out the patch and we're good to go. So I think they've taken a really long time on that to people to realize how much variety the game does have in weapons. Because once you get beyond the absolute meta, the guns are pretty close, and people are going to have to like go with what they like and what they enjoy because there's that much options. It's unfortunate that they didn't make that change sooner because it's been kind of a boring part of the game. Essentially, when the game should be fun, it's like, well, I don't have fun using a gun I enjoy and losing gunfights. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I need to use the meta, which ends up being boring because then I end up using the same thing every match. And you watch this, you can tune in anyone's stream. They're literally using the same 2 or 3 weapons. That's it.
Very true.
And
very
and
true.
everyone looks the same because the mechanics have changed to essentially reduce the variety of skill. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people got caught up on skill gap, but I think the reality is there's still a skill gap in the game because there's people winning 40 games in a row and 70 games in a row and nonstop winning. So clearly there's a skill gap, but the skill variety, it's only one dimensional. Like how the skill is played out, and versus before there was at least a little bit of variety. So I don't think they've addressed any of that. I think we're getting new content, which will be good with the Ashka Island or whatever the heck, and that'll be a huge avenue where people get to explore it. It's going to be great for DMZ, BR people if they want a faster paced game. Boom. And I think they really got to consider, I'm going to say it now, and I might get quoted like a while from now when they actually do something about it. Mm-hmm. But I didn't even realize this until more recently is that one of the reasons that I've kind of avoided Battle Royale is how long the matches are. Mm. And if you go back to Blackout, the match is like the longest it could have been is around 21 minutes.
I remember that.
And what I didn't realize is when I was doing the map comparison is Caldera, Blackout's map was the biggest map out of every map we've ever had.
Really?
The biggest.
Okay.
But it never played that way because what happens is the first zone started closing after 2 minutes.
Okay.
And the first zone was fully closed after 2 minutes after that. So a total of 4 minutes, you already had to be inside the zone. You couldn't like land far and then try to make it in. It just wasn't reality. So the playable space was already cut in half at the beginning of the match. So you never felt like the map was, oh my God, it's so big. Right. Versus now it's like 7.5 minutes before that happens.
Yeah. Very big difference.
So we're losing like 3 minutes there, and then you lose time throughout. So it's like these matches are way too long. So I would imagine if they came out around a Mausra and they cut it down to about 25 minutes, the same where Verdansk and Caldera were, that'd probably help the pacing. But and that doesn't, you don't have to change anything else. It'd make the game feel faster, whatever. And Resurgence, hopefully it falls in the same realm right there where it's like the 12, 13 minute match. Because that's what people enjoy. Not necessarily, the movement. People get caught up on that. But the reality is like you like to play 6 matches an hour, not 2.
Right. Very true. Very true.
And then you get a new experience each time and whatever. There's a lot of more variety on those maps too, because you can use snipers or whatever, and hopefully they change that too, but we'll see.
So when you saw the roadmap, because it just dropped, were you not impressed, or were you more impressed, or were just like,
Well, I think I took it from a different perspective. I think I got to consider like multiplayer more. I was talking about this kind of on stream. It was kind of funny because we watched some videos of before I went and did a little bit of a podcast with Repulse.
Oh yeah, the Postcast. Yeah. Shout out to the Postcast because what you guys are doing there are actually really, really good.
So before I went on there, we were watching Prestigious Key and Exclusive Ace, right? We watched some video. I was like, I wonder what their thoughts were. Right. And I was like, let's kill a little bit of time until we do that because it got delayed a little bit. We're watching it and Prestige is like raging off the game.
Yeah, I saw his video. I said, bro, he just not like this game.
Yeah. But it's not even the game. It's like abstract of the game. It's the content they're providing to the game.
Right.
The reality is they've only they haven't brought any new content to that game, and it's debatable whether you count Shipment and Shoot House. Those are remade.
Right.
Shipment for like 6 times, and like Shoot House is like the second iteration or maybe even third. I don't know. But whatever it is, they did that. And then, no, it's a third, I think.
Yeah, it is the third one. Now that I think about it, yeah. They're just recycling that stuff.
They're recycling it. And then this time around, they brought back Dome. And it's like, bro, like Dome is fire.
Right.
We're not going to lie.
Right.
Dome is fire.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's only 2 maps. And it's like, are you really taking care of those people? No doubt ranked is going to be fire. Like it's going to be fire. Like I know Treyarch is leading it and I already heard some things that make it sound real good. I'm not a multiplayer guy anymore. Like I kind of threw in the towel on that. Like it's just not worth the quote unquote stress or frustration.
Right.
And they haven't gotten there yet. I got there and I was like, yeah, I'm done with that. Like 2019 broke me on that.
Right. Oh,
and I went, and luckily Warzone was there, or maybe I wouldn't be doing content creation.
Right.
But it was one of those things that, you know, I think there's a lot of little things they could do that like just the time thing. You don't got to change anything else. It'll make the game feel different. Weapon balance. None of those things are happening with the next season. So I think there will be some changes that'll at least be in the right direction. But for me, in terms of the roadmap, I was like, cool. I mean, multiplayer got kind of screwed, but we're going to be fine in BR.
Right.
They're going to fix some stuff, some minor stuff. And we're getting tons of content in DMZ, which I'm enjoying a lot of.
Right.
Like, even though people think it's plunder, it's not. Like, Resurgence is more like plunder. But
yeah, very true.
But when you actually play DMZ, you don't get why it's good until you play it. Like I thought, this could be good. I started playing, you get hooked. I ran out of challenges, so you know it is what it is.
Right.
But we're gonna get a restock on that too.
Oh,
so
there you go. So
should be good.
You know, there's something for everybody in this new update, but not obviously something that everybody wants.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's the limit right there. Is where him and Prestige and Exclusive Ace were like, it's disrespectful. Like you pay $70. And we used to pay for DLCs, and we would get like 5 maps.
Yeah, very true.
And a zombies map.
Very true.
It would be heat and a couple weapons. Right. Now it's like, oh, cool. You get these modes you've all played before. You get this. You get these maps you played before, and on top of that, like nothing else special. No quality of life. No nothing. It's like, good luck. We'll see you in 3 months.
Yeah, bro. Because essentially, what people are gonna see, they're gonna see what this new roadmap is. I mean, they've already seen it at this point.
Yep.
They're like, yeah, we'll see what season 3 is, and season 2 ain't even dropped yet, and that's crazy.
Yeah, and you know what's been really crazy to see is like I don't really mind it because I know I'm gonna do what I gotta do, make my content.
Yeah.
And the more people that fall off, there's less competition.
hey, and that is the great way to look at it.
You know, but at the same time, it would be better if the game was better.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day. But I've seen more people quit COD this year than ever before.
Man.
And it's funny because like
that's why I'm sitting here with you right now.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of wager dudes. They're going back to school or this and this, and at a certain point, like most people are gonna fail at their attempt at COD. It just is what it is. There's such a few number of people that truly make it a viable thing where they're not like living at home, someone else paying their bills, and it's very hard to make it beyond the next step.
It is,
and even when you do, there's no guarantee you're gonna keep that. Like even until you make it to certain levels. You get like a certain level of comfort. It's been interesting to see that because there's some people, like, I mean, they play it every single day. And me recently, I know you've seen it because you said you're in the streams, but like I kind of committed to just streaming more games.
Yeah.
Because I'm a gamer. I enjoy games. Like COD isn't the only game I played, even though that's the only game I make content for. Normally I play all kinds of games.
Right.
And then I started streaming them. People were like, oh, damn, Warzone must be down bad. I'm like, well, I kind of really wasn't playing Warzone all that much. Right. Like, I'm just playing these, and I could either stream for like 3 months that I didn't stream. I literally just didn't press go live.
I saw that you posted that you streamed for like 430 hours last year or something like that.
Less.
It was less than 430. So that's like less than 10 hours. That's like 8 hours.
It was last year.
That's like a month out of 12.
Last year was 140 hours. And that was like 99% COD.
Right.
This year I already got 110 hours.
Look at that. See?
You know?
Because
I'm enjoying it. And I'm enjoying it.
Exactly. And that's the difference.
And a lot of people were like, well, you can stream COD. And I was like, well, the reality is I do enjoy COD, or else I wouldn't make content. Right. Like that's a fact.
Right.
But I don't enjoy it for 8 hours a day.
Right.
I enjoy it for like 90 minutes.
Right.
Like that's cool enough for me. I don't need to play this 8 hours a day for $1,000 a match. Like I'm not the wager people, and I don't need to drop a nuke for content. I don't need 20 kill game. Like I don't care. Right. Like I'm gonna enjoy the game because I'm with who I'm playing with.
Yeah.
Like I'll rock and play with whoever, and I'll have a good 4 or 5 hours if we're having good vibes, whatever. Yeah, but there's no way. Like to play that 8 hours a day, the mental is ridiculous. Like it's just pure toxicity. People want to try and catch you saying something off guard.
Man.
Like, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't even mean that in a bad way. I mean, they just want like we were talking about, they'll clip it and then ship it and try and start drama.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, he said that you're not even that good. I was like, that's not what I said. You know, like
cloud is a hell of a drug, man. That's one thing that I've been saying a lot recently, not only with the people that have been sitting down with me, but just in general, man. People want to go viral for whatever reason. And if they can, especially when it's a controversy, bro, if they could be the first person to put it out, whether it's right or wrong, they just want to go and get some type of clout. And that's very dangerous.
Well, and what I also notice is just my general mood is when you're playing COD, you have to focus up.
Yeah.
SBMM makes it so you have to focus up. Whatever term you want to use, EOMM, whatever. Either way, you do have to focus up. And then on top of that, when you stream, you do get stream snipers. Even if I'm only pulling like a couple hundred viewers, there's stream snipers.
Oh, yeah.
A couple thousand, there's more stream snipers. Regardless, it just happens. And you know it because I played so many hours not streaming that literally it's a night and day difference. Like, I don't even know how people like Swag or Nick or like any of these dudes, I don't,
man.
I'm like, bro, how do you even enjoy the game? There's zero chance. There's no way. And then on top of that, then you get the toxicity of the chat where it's like, bro, you didn't get 20 kills this match. Like, bro, like, that's not every game, bro.
Right,
that's YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people don't realize that, like, I think more so now, but still, people don't realize, like, when you're seeing what these guys are posting on YouTube, that's not something they're doing every single game.
No, not even.
They're giving you it's basically a highlight of what they got in maybe 4 hours worth of gaming. Like, obviously in Warzone 1, we were dropping 20 kills more regularly. But like what you see on YouTube is just like a highlight, really.
Yep. And then on top of that, I mean, you just get like these random questions that are bait questions.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, so you defend cheaters or something. I'm like,
yeah.
I've never once defended cheaters.
Right.
Never. Like,
right.
It's not happened. No follow up. First time chatter. Like, what the hell?
You go and look and you see where, okay, well, let me see what this person. Oh, okay. You don't even follow me. You just are in here for the first time and it's the first thing you decided to say.
Yeah. So that stuff happens and it's hard. Like when you see 17 of those messages that like to not reply to one, but it just happens, you know? So I think with the COD side of it, boom, this is how it works. You know, you avoid that and you remove tons of toxicity. Like I said, this week alone, I streamed like 45 hours.
See, that's amazing.
Right? Not banning, no timeouts, nothing. We swapped to COD. First 10 minutes, I had to ban
somebody. Yep. See?
It's like, bro, what are we doing here? Something mentally wrong with you going, like, you need help, bro. That level of toxicity should not exist.
Man, that's very true. Because COD just brings it out of people for some reason.
They can't help it.
Yeah, they can't help
Even
it.
playing it, you know, it's just how it is.
Man, like, it's funny because like when I would play other games on stream, it's so much more chill for me mentally, emotionally, bro. As soon as I turn on COD,
even with like a quarter of the viewers, man, I'm chilling.
Yeah, bro, I'm chilling, bro. I turn on COD, that somebody comes in the stream. Oh, you supposed to be playing COD. Okay, I'll play COD. The first 10 minutes, I'm F-bombing this and F-bombing that. It's like, bro. It just finds a way to bring it out of you for some reason. And I mean, you know, I think with the integration of like more people playing GBs, more tournaments, I think, and it's just my opinion, I feel like once that stuff started to become more mainstream, like GBs and tournaments, that was kind of like the start of the downfall of the community.
The SBMM and the casual.
And the community aspect of what we had back in 2018.
Yep.
So I do want to touch on this other thing too. You know, you've done all these things in COD. You started having all this success. The one thing that I always thought when I saw you starting to do this, and I knew that you would be good at it, bro, you started with the COD casting, bro. It's my podcast. That's fucking amazing.
Well, you know what? It kind of like it was a double-edged sword because like what happens is I do work with my management, Up North management. They take care of all my deals and they've taken care of me pretty good. They bring me tons of deals. I don't even have to think twice. I don't have to check if it's a phishing email, get scammed over. And you know, it's worked out. It's a good partnership. A lot of those deals, I require a certain rate basically.
Got to. And
for a while there during Warzone before this recent year, I was doing a lot of, you know, I did work with Envy.
Yeah,
you know, I did one with the subliner, three different ones with the subliners. And I did this other one last minute. I did World Series of Warzone like 4 times.
Yep.
And I get a certain amount. But then all these smaller tournaments, like what they would pay me without like showing my pockets is that like is more than the prize pool. So like they can't afford to pay me.
Right.
But then like I can't get the reps I need. That's what I was talking about with somebody too, is kind of like a double-edged sword because of my popularity, I would essentially have to tell my management, oh, I'll take a couple $100 just so I get reps.
Right.
But in reality, it's like, well, then I'm lowering my value, which it's kind of like one of those things because there's so many great casters. People are like, oh, when I've done the COD watch parties and they're like, oh, you should get into casting or whatever for the CDL. I was like, there's so many talented people. Like Shift, he's one of the main dudes. He runs challengers basically. And he has more reps than anyone. If there was anyone to be in the main league, it's going to be him before I've ever even come up in the conversation. So I could respect like those people that are out there grinding it, making it happen. And even within the Warzone community, you have people like Goj and, like that are running those tournaments and doing them. And they're getting like hours upon hours of reps. And I'm brought in like one time. I do pretty well for what it is, but I'm not nearly as seasoned. So it's kind of like it's fun. It's good. I know I could excel at it if that's what I only wanted to do. But then I'd have to have that conversation with my manager and basically say, okay, we'll do it for a couple $100 and we're good. Not to saying that that's what they're getting paid.
I know what you're saying. I know what you mean. But
yeah, there's like a certain price where it's like, oh yeah, we don't want to pay him that. So it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, because once you get to a level that you're in, I know you're a super humble guy and you'll never say it, but once you get to the level that you're in, like you can't just accept anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's happened before too, where I had people hit me up and then they're like, hey, how much would an integration work with you? And I was like, well, it's going to go through my management. I put everything through them. I'm not going to hide, oh, let's do this on the side.
Right.
Like that's not me.
I'm not going to do that.
Even though people probably would do that. And then I said, well, just to give you an idea, it's between this range. Oh, they're like, I can't afford that. I was like, well, I'm sorry, bro.
Me then.
I'm sorry, bro. I wish if I didn't have management, I would probably do it on the side and whatever. And that sometimes has happened before where I had people like Legion. Legion, I really enjoy his banter. I like him a lot as a content creator person, those types of things. And he hit me up. He said, hey, we got this tournament going on. And he goes, I want you involved. And I was like, all right, cool. He goes, I don't really have a budget though. And I said, all right, cool. Let me hit up my management, tell him. And then my manager was like, oh, cool. Don't worry about it. Whatever you get, keep it. Like we won't even split it. So I mean, I like my management for that part.
Right.
And it wasn't anything crazy. It was just like and I was gonna do it for free.
Right.
And he was all like, oh, I ended up getting you a little bit. And it was like, all right, cool. And I'm down with that because I think that like what happens is if you give like you go and share opportunities, it's gonna return back to you.
100%.
You know what I mean? And like there's a lot of things that I've done where it's completely free, no promotion, whatever. And then it's like, okay, cool. Well, why did he do that? Like, well, he just did it because he could, you know, like he didn't have to.
Right.
And there's a lot of scenarios that do have happened like that over the past couple of years. And it's regardless of what size I was, it was just like, maybe it's a favor to a friend and it's cool. Sometimes that works out that way. And I don't ever expect anything in return. And they know that, even though it's never said, they know it. And it just is what it is.
And that's even how we're even talking now is our relations that we have. One thing that I started saying this year, man, is like your net worth is what is the saying? Your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because not everybody can get you to sit down. You know what I mean? It's because of the relationship that we have that you came and you did this for me.
Yeah.
Which I 1000% appreciate. And I get that sentiment 100%.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about the podcasting, we talked about all those things. Now, because there's kind of like a lull with this waiting period for the next season of COD, I see you having diversity on your stream.
Yeah. I think like a hard part, I think, as a content creator is it's like there's a smart decision you should do, and then there's the one that you want to do, I guess. And sometimes those overlap, right? Mm-hmm. I think when I first got started is I was like, okay, everything has to be COD and I have to make things a certain way. And the long-term vision is I want to be able to branch out and do other things. Maybe I've done it a little bit sooner than I planned, but that's part of the Warzone thing is that, you know, I'm not going to beat my head against the wall trying to make a video a day, even though I could literally make a video a day and I'm losing out on thousands of dollars just by not posting. And that's okay. Like I rather kind of like enjoy gaming and streaming. And that's what I'm doing now is I think this year we've already played 6 different games on stream. It's only been 6 weeks.
Right.
So we are like gaming.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And if you count last year, I only did 5 different games. The year before that was like 4. And I kind of looked at that and I was like, we're going to hit like 40 games this year or something crazy. You know, we're going to do whatever we need to do. And that'll just be my side thing that I enjoy doing. And just like that, I want to get outside of my comfort zone. And the hard part, I think a lot of times people don't realize, and I've talked to other creators, For me, it was always hitting the go live button. Like going live, I'm good. I can talk like this. We're here. We're doing our thing.
Right.
Am I an expert at this? No, but we can do this, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things that like the hardest part is starting. And for a while there, it would be like I'd go live and maybe I'd get into a routine of going a couple days here and there, and then it kind of like whatever. And the holdback was the COD. Like I want to stream for 8 hours, but I'm not gonna stream COD for 8 hours. So I kind of had to get over myself, like in my own head, and get through that, which is really difficult. I probably still did it sooner than I did. And I probably should have done it like a while ago when the numbers were way higher, because there's a translation with Twitch, at least, where your viewership is largely what's going to drive your viewership. The more viewers you have, the more viewers you're going to get because of the directory thing. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I streamed probably like 110 hours this year already. Last year, the entire year, 140.
Right.
So we're going to shatter that. My most streamed month was like 55 hours. We did like 64 hours last month. So it's slowly climbing and we're improving on that. And we're still integrating videos and stuff like that. But it just kind of gives me ability to interact and connect with different like people in the chat, you know, supporters, followers, whatever you want to call it, that we can talk about different things besides what's the meta.
Right.
And so even though I do appreciate the people that follow and support for that, the long-term vision of Jgod is that to be able to do things like this and you know, and be able to do casting or analysts or, you know, vlog stuff. And I have posted vlog videos in the past, or at least one, but you know, I ran into some hiccups where it was like recording and editing and it's just hassles. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. But I've gotten some of those things dialed down. I just got to get the creative vision on how I want to do it. And there's even content related with my son.
Oh my
that
goodness,
I can
that would
do.
go crazy.
Like I thought about this one idea. It's just a side note, but is like where we play old games, but he plays them.
Okay.
And then like I watch a game that I had a lot of time played, like an old game, like Ninja Gaiden or something.
Ooh, that would
it's
be
like
so
brutal.
dope, though.
It's just brutal. It's
Right,
like
right.
painful for him to play. Like you can't save it. What do you mean? You know?
Yeah, that would be so dope to have him grow up in that the way we grew up in that. That would be so
Go
dope.
play
I would
Super Metroid.
I would love to see something like that.
Super Metroid and just experience how the games were, because it's such a, like you get these generational gaps, right? Like obviously there's people that don't know what a Walkman is and a CD player and all those things. But it was funny enough, we were at my mother-in-law's and we have a cable over there and we have it set up and we went to go visit. We were eating dinner or something and the commercials come on and he's like, well, why do they have so many ads? And then he goes, well, how many are there? So it doesn't tell you. We were like, well, how do you know when they're over? Because they are like they're so used to like the way content is digested now that you either don't get ads or they're skip. You can't skip them.
Right.
What are we doing here? Like, no, this is just cable TV. What are you?
So you guys don't have cable at home?
No. We have like Netflix, Hulu, Disney,
smart.
like, you know, all those. But it's still kind of funny that like something so like trivial, like that we grew up with like nonstop, especially if you were home and you watch like Judge Judy or something, you got ads or Maury or whatever, you know, like you got all this daytime. It was just ads. Power Rangers come on, ads. You watch Dragon Ball, it's like, dude, 20-minute episode felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it was like all the rest commercials. So it's kind of a different time. And I think the gaming aspect, you know, you could branch off and I have had creative ideas like that, but it's just a matter of, do I want to start doing those now or do I want to wait a little bit? And I've kind of got my feet wet more with streaming and I'm enjoying it. So I'm having fun, you know? So that's the key. And then I'll slowly continue to branch out and do the other things because the vlog that I did do, it did well.
Yeah, man.
So there's no reason not to.
Yeah, 100%. Something about vlogging, especially like for me, like when I see a father-son, especially with that idea, because you can create the vlogs when you guys going here, going there, but having it integrated with gaming too, I think is something that would just...
Yeah, it could be really good and then kind of get his feet wet to the non-business side where I'm controlling every aspect.
Exactly.
And then it goes that route. But that's like a long-term goal and you know, those are different things. Like right now, I'm just really enjoying streaming and having a lot of fun with it. It feels like I'm not really streaming. And I've actually like understood a little bit more of the streamer side because there's people who are like, oh, I miss streaming. I was like, how do you miss streaming? Like, what do you mean? But now that I've done it, like back to back, I really do kind of understand that aspect where it's like, oh, yeah, I really want to start. I need to go live. Like, you know, it'd be fun to go live, you know? And it doesn't matter how many viewers are in that. And I've kind of accepted that I'm going to have way less. And once it was able to get over that hurdle, it's more a mental hurdle.
It
like,
definitely is.
Doesn't matter. Chat's there to roll with you, whether it's 100 people or 5,000 or whatever the number is. And it's cool.
Yeah, that's the one aspect of, being a streamer. People say that it's not about numbers, because in a sense it is, but then in a sense it isn't, because you're not in a position where you need the viewership.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what you already have going on the YouTube side.
Twitter, sponsorships, everything.
The word I was looking for was sponsorship. I was having a brain
fart.
The sponsorship side, exactly. So it's actually funny to see you streaming more, because I feel like we can get even more of the Jgod personality. Yeah. Because you have your video structured in a way where you're just trying to get the information out, and it's just, okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 10 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever it is now, and it's done. But the streaming aspect of it, we can really get to see you open your horizons, Broadmoor. Like, I was watching your stream yesterday when you were playing that one game. What game was that you were playing yesterday?
Was the Octopath Traveler?
That was Octopath Traveler.
You were like, what is this game? It was like, it's a JRPG, bro.
Yeah. I was watching you play that, but I sit there and I watch that, and I'm interacting with chat, and I'm seeing how chat is interacting with you, and you get to be more of who you are and show that side of you, which I think can only be more of a positive.
Yeah. And I think that's helped with, like, even on the YouTube channel, like a lot of the series where it is the spectating randoms, which before used to be spectating subscribers, is that people are like, oh man, you're funny. And I was like, well, yeah, I was like, you can't really do that in here's a gun video.
Right.
Like, it's kind of generic into a certain extent with the data, and I'm just digesting them and repurposing them. Where am I going to put a joke in there?
Right.
I could, but it doesn't really make sense for that audience. So I think the spectating randoms always added that element where it was like, oh man, this dude's, what is he doing? What is going on here? Exactly. You got to roast him a little bit. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of that in a funny way, like not necessarily negative. Because obviously the goal is to entertain a little bit in those videos, but more an improvement and going back to what I first started with. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. There's a lot that goes into that, but yeah, it's fun to have that element where people will be like, "Oh damn, I didn't know you cussed." I'm
right.
Like, well,
yeah, because when I
was in the Marine Corps, what do you think?
When I first heard you cuss for the first time, because I don't think I have ever seen that side of you where it was just, because you were always, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're always more, business. Like I said, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, being able to see your more of your personality than just what you have to do when it pertains to Call of Duty.
Yeah. And I think that's helped too. With it, just like when I go to events and stuff like that, I've been able to interact with a lot of creators. Sometimes that really does well, is that people will be surprised at how many people I'm able to interact with. Yeah. And it was funny because when we had COD Next, they had like 200 creators there. Yeah. And it was funny because I was talking to another creator, and then I was like, after we got back home or whatever, and he goes, "Oh damn, I really wanted to chat to you, but you were chatting to everybody, like literally everybody, and everyone knows you, like, and everyone, and even like the Spanish community, like they're creators. Right. I don't know them because I don't watch the Spanish stuff, content, but then they would come over and be like, "Oh, Jgod, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?
How you doing?
What's going on?" And then the people from Europe and all throughout, and then obviously the North American content creators, everyone's chill. I talk to everyone, and it's cool, and you have good vibes, and it's how it is. Yeah. And you try to interact with everybody. And there's just not enough time.
It's not. And that's the one thing that I like about you the most. And I feel like I've been saying this about everybody, but I think it's maybe just the company that I keep. Even with all your success, you're still the same Jgod that I met in 2018. And that's, in this industry, is very hard to do.
Yeah.
When you reach a level of success that I've seen from other creators, and I won't mention any names, but they get to a certain point and they're, oh, I don't know you, or I can't interact with you because you don't have X many followers or X many viewers in your stream.
Yeah.
And I just really respected that anybody could come and walk up to you and introduce themselves and talk to you. And anytime I've ever seen you, even when like the COD Next event, even though I wasn't technically invited, I know everybody up there. So they just, "Oh, come in, T." And I come and I see you, and it's a big hug, take a picture. And I see and I watch you talk to other people, and it's like, this guy is, not only is he one of the biggest things on Call of Duty, but he's still humble and down to earth. It's true though. It really is. And I know I'm not trying to make too big of a deal about it, but in this industry, bro, like, people will know you today and not speak to you tomorrow.
Yeah. That is very true. And I've seen those instances, and sometimes people, you'll see them even like type that outwardly on Twitter. And it's kind of funny because they'll be like, "Oh, you think you know people? You got to cut people off. People just want to use," like, really negative. Yeah. And it's like, well, why do you even have that mindset? You know, at the end of the day, it's like, well, like, are you expecting something in return? Why did you do anything to begin with? You know? Right. And that's really how those tweets read to me every single time. They're like, oh, gotta cut off the fakes. And it's like, bro, like you're like self-reporting. Yeah. Like, what did you want out of that relationship? Right. That you feel like you're entitled to have them in your relationship, you know? Right. Right. And you know, it's kind of one of those things that I try not to do, like put out anything like that. And there's always people that at random, they'll message me, like even like, you know, we have
right, sometimes, exactly, yeah.
And it'll be like, oh, cool, this and this, and it'll be like we talk every day, right? You know, and I, you know, try to make that the way it is, an open door with anyone I communicate with. And there's people that'll message me 6 months later, or that since we've talked and we don't really engage much on Twitter or whatever, and they'll be like, hey, Jay, got this, and this, and I'm like, yeah, this and this, you know, and I'm willing to like, you know, help in whatever way I can. And I don't care if I get any, and most of the time I'm not going to get anything out of it. Like, I don't care. Like it is what it is. So I don't know. I think that's just a part of the dynamic that it is what it is. I mean, I've known a lot of creators and I did grow fast. So it worked out where I was able to know some smaller creators, medium sized, large, and it's like no different.
And I personally appreciate that because, you know, like for me in my content creation career, as far as Call of Duty, I'm just not doing that anymore. You know, I want to grow this thing and I want to invite, you know, people like you, the bigger creator, and even some of the smaller creators I know, knowing the type of people that you're going to have on that have that mentality. It's like, yo, yeah, I'll do this for you because you're my boy, or yeah, I'll do this for you just because it's the culture and this is where we are. Yeah. And I appreciate that, bro. And I definitely don't want to minimalize it because it is dope. Because like I said earlier, bro, everybody's not going to be able to have you sit down and talk to them for however long we've been talking at this point. You know what I mean? You're a busy guy. You got things to do. And at this point, we've been talking for a couple hours now. And, you know, it's just good vibes. And I appreciate it. There's a couple more questions I want to ask you before I let you go. Has there ever been any content creator, and you don't have to say a name.
Yep. Okay.
You know how we were just having that conversation. Has anybody ever like just not necessarily sunned you, but just act like they don't know who you are? Like they see you and they be like, eh.
I don't think so. I think there's obviously there's been those attempts where people, it's very shallow to see that like when they're trying to clout chase is more common than anything. Mm-hmm. Like especially when I was reacting to like records before the hacker hunter nonsense kind of got overboard where everyone assumed everyone was cheating type thing. Right. It was a lot of fun to highlight creators and see the success they had. Mm-hmm. And we talked about Iron earlier. Yeah. But like a lot of people don't know that the story with Iron. Iron was going to be successful regardless because Iron's Iron, right? Right. And he's able to distinctly make himself unique. But when I first made the video on Iron, it was the first time I'd ever seen that. I know we're getting kind of sidetracked with that. Fine. But he held like 65 viewers. And then we did the video. Next stream, he had 600. Yeah. Yeah. And then he went over 1,000. Yeah. And it was like overnight.
No, overnight success, literally.
And even though he would have gotten there because he was the number one and he carried himself in a way that made sense and he was relatable and all those things, it was kind of like, oh, shoot, that was crazy. Yeah. But because of that, I mean, he was selfless. So I think it was the best person could have happened to at that time, right? But that other times that has happened, whether I covered Bonk, which was like number 4 for wins and kills. Yeah. And then he got partnered over like almost overnight. Yeah. Like not overnight because you still got to apply, but his viewership was enough. And it was like, okay, cool. That was a lot of fun. Like to be able to impact people in that way. Yeah. And although I did get revenue off of views or whatever, them being able to continue and make a career, like to secure that is also great. Yeah. But it's the outside looking in where people are like, oh, I want that too. Yeah. So then they're like, oh, I dropped 40 kills. You should check it out. So we're getting circling back around and it's like, well, that's not genuine. Like a lot of people don't realize how much work went into those videos. It wasn't like I just pulled up Iron Stream and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to react to the number 1 player. I spent like 14 hours in a stream before I ever, like 14 hours. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of time. Because you're looking for trends and how they treat their viewers and how they interact with the people they play with and like how they talk and, you know, all those types of things. It's not just, oh, cool, they're a good player. Good player's dime a dozen. Yeah. A lot of people are going to be surprised that they think they're special gamer. Right. But good players are dime a dozen. Yeah. And, you know, when I really went to go look at certain people's channels, it'd be like, okay, cool, I'd watch. And then something would be like, maybe turn me off about the stream. And I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to cover them.
Right. Right.
So then I work around, and sometimes people are like, well, why'd you cover so-and-so and so-and-so? It's like, well, maybe I watched their stream.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't, so don't feel like targeted. But
Right.
it's kind of one of those things that like people would message and say, hey, you should react to so-and-so. I was like, I don't know anything about so-and-so.
Right.
And I don't have time to spend 14 hours to watch
No,
this
you don't.
so-and-so. Right now I don't.
Right.
But maybe at a certain time I could spend time to do it.
Right.
And then I can go about it. And that's kind of worked around. And sometimes there was red flags. And I would tell the person, hey, yeah, this is the red flag. It happened with Knight before, for example.
Yeah, my boy Knight. Shout out to Knight.
Knight's like goated when it came to Rebirth.
Oh,
he was a former
1000%.
pro player
Yep.
or whatever. Didn't have a ton of notoriety, but he was a pro player.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he had broken the record. And then I went through and I watched the VOD and he was playing with somebody and it was like, oh, this guy, I think he might have an unlocked tool. And I was like, yeah, I can't cover you.
Right.
Get a gameplay without that dude. Maybe we can talk.
Right.
but like, I'm not going to include that
Yeah.
because I just felt like it's a no-no.
For your brand, definitely.
Yeah. And I believe that like the guy is probably just using it for unlock tool for TikTok or whatever, but I'm not going to put that in a video.
Right.
Even though it was only 3 seconds of the gameplay.
Right.
I was like, nah, I'm not going to cut it out.
Right. You can.
Yeah. So it was kind of one of those things that I had that conversation and I still chat with Knight all the time and about content sometimes or whatever. But it's kind of one of those things that like, it's not just a one snapshot. Cool. They got 50 kills.
Right.
Like I have to vet the person.
gotta vet 'em.
Like at
Exactly.
least for what I want. Cause I'm going to send my viewers there.
Right.
I'm going to send my like subscribers there. I'm not going to just send them to anyone.
And then it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, oh, you supported this cheater.
Yeah.
Even though we're not talking, I want to be clear. He's not talking about Knight himself. He's talking about somebody that Knight was playing with, to be clear. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that he even knew or anything. It's just kind of one of the cultures of TikTok at the time.
Yeah.
But it's beyond the point. But it was kind of one of those things that people don't realize the amount of work. It wasn't just like I'm clicking and go, boom, let's play. Like boom, play. Oh my God, he got 70 kills. Like, no, it's not that. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
Even though in the real gameplay, that's what I'm doing. I'm establishing the person's patterns and like for Knight, when I eventually did break down his gameplay, I actually looked at like the map of Rebirth, where he landed. I looked at like 30 matches or something crazy, where he'd land and then his rotational pattern. He had like a consistent pattern of how he would go, even if it was unconscious. This is kind of how he went.
Right.
And I basically broke that down like, oh, he rotates from here. He lands here every single time. Then he rotates from there to there. And then if the zone's on this side, then he rotates this way. He never goes in this area. Because unconsciously he learned that you got to avoid those areas. You know?
Yeah.
So
very true.
I was really trying to analyze the gameplay other than just react to top player, be top player.
And that's what I also appreciate too, is like, you're not afraid, not saying that you discovered these guys, but you're not afraid to break these guys to other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that.
And I think sometimes people do get in their own way with that type of stuff where they're like, they don't want to share like what success they've had.
Right.
And I think there's other creators that are even much larger than myself. They've avoided doing that, but then they kind of come around to it and it's kind of nice to see. Yeah, it's good.
It is. It's definitely good. And the other question that I wanted to ask you, what is your craziest supporter interaction? Like what happened where somebody that you met and it was like, whoa, bro, this is a little much. Do you have any stories like that?
No, I don't really have anything like that.
Okay.
I mean, people have come up to events and signed stuff or whatever, but nothing crazy. You just say, hey, take a photo, or, oh, are you Jgod? What's going on? Because I usually, I don't have like the drip or anything like that. So I go low key everywhere and my jeans and like a sweater or whatever.
Right.
Not even, you won't even recognize me half the time.
No, like if you don't know, like for instance, I know how you are because I've known you for a long period of time. So I know like you're super low key when you go to events. Like when I seen you in 2018, excuse me. 2018, super low key. You and Xander, you guys are just chilling. I think I seen you maybe another year. It was you, Xander, and I think your brother was there.
Yep.
And same thing, super low key. You guys have this just low key thing. So like even today, I knew you're gonna come super low key. And that's just how you are. That's just who you are. The most important question, and I know you probably have gone over this, but I'm going to ask you because I ask everybody 2 questions. I always ask the first question and then basically the last question. Top 5 COD in order, and you have to answer.
Okay, top 5 COD, I would say is, if I had to go in order, MW3.
Ooh.
BO2.
Ooh.
Okay, and then I'll do MW2.
Ooh.
And then... kind of tricky after that part.
Yeah, it is.
What is that? 3 of them right now?
That's 3
That's
so
3?
far.
Because I started with content creation around the time, I would say IW. And then the most recent was probably BO4 that I had the most fun on.
That is an amazing list.
Yeah.
And for me, Modern Warfare 2 would probably be at the top, but that's an amazing list. You can't go wrong with any one of those cards, and I love it. What's the most fun you had ever playing Call of Duty? Like, which one was it? Was it when you first started content, or
I think it was when I first started content with IW. I think like obviously there was good times during like MW3 and BO2, but like I was never at that skill level. We would play in parties. We would just run lobbies and TDM or something like that, thinking we're something. But I think when we actually, I started playing solo, learning how to improve, and actually started dropping nukes within IW, it was kind of like, oh shoot, this is like really fun. Yeah. It was crazy. And World War II was a lot of fun too. I mean, it was kind of like boots on the ground, kind of like plain COD. I think beyond requisitions, the game was a lot of fun after they fixed it and they put some OD perks like where your gun will reload if you get a double kill or whatever. It was how's that allowed?
How's
that allowed? But like it was like the first time they were like really trying to cater towards aggressive, sweaty players. And that was cool. So, each COD has their own moments. I think there's certain like times that have been good. BO4 was just cool overall. I got more into competitive COD and in terms of watching. So that was like a different aspect to see of the game. And be able to expand on that, even though World War II was there too. But it was BO4 kind of like was like, ooh, this is a new COD and it's different. It feels still like COD, but it's like still Treyarch and all that stuff.
Obviously,
yeah.
And then not necessarily a question, but the last thing before we go, and I like to do this too for like content creators that are up and coming. Mm-hmm. If you had a message to give to somebody that's brand new to content, what would that message be?
Well, I think in general is just to do it because I think a lot of times people get in their own head and they stop before they even start and they start like getting in their own way. And right now the real popping stuff is shorts, TikTok or short form content. So I would aggressively try to understand that content and make that content, but understand that like where you're going to have the most success is probably in long form. Cause you can get millions of views and all this stuff. But I've talked to TikTokers and seen their revenue. That like some of them are. That is why they're over here on YouTube, and that's why they're streaming and having success doing these other things.
Right. Because
that's just a stepping stone to reach a broader audience. I think really do a lot of research on what you want and understand. But trial and error is a great educator. Like if you're making 10 videos a month versus 30 videos a month, you're going to learn more in the 30 videos. Even if there's bad videos, that's okay. Mr. B says the same thing. First 100 videos is going to be dirt. It's okay. 101 will be better than the dirt that it was, and you just keep improving upon. And it doesn't need to be perfect because the viewer isn't someone who's looking for perfection. They would watch programs on television if that's all they were looking for. They're looking for something else different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be like over the top. Even though there are channels that succeed in that, it doesn't have to be. Right. Like you don't have to have the best mic. You don't have the best. So I would say start, get reps, and continue trying to learn because you're not an expert. Even at my certain level and plenty of other content creators around my level, they're still learning stuff all the time. Right. And I think once you think you learned it all, you probably making a mistake. Yeah.
That's very true because once you think you know it all, then you're not learning anymore. Yeah. And then if you're not learning, then
you're gonna fall behind and you're not gonna adjust. And there's some older COD content creators.
Yes, like, there are.
I'm like, dude, still making content, but cool, whatever.
Yeah, whatever's
stop
clever.
Growing, but cool.
Yeah, there are some, and there are. I'm not gonna say names, but there are some that I see, and I'm like, wow, okay,
yeah,
and I just, personally, I knew that it wasn't for me anymore.
Yeah,
I just because I just not necessarily don't like the game as much. I mean, it's a little bit of that, but I just knew that it just wasn't for me.
And I think finding your niche is totally important too, and understanding how big that niche can be. Yeah. Obviously, if I only focused on video gaming, but it'd probably be broader, but more competitive. But then focusing on COD, there's different variables. You could be a reaction channel, a cooking channel. You could be a car dude. You can do vlogs. You can do podcasts.
Podcasting.
You can do all kinds of stuff. It just really, are you going to enjoy it? Do you see yourself doing it every day? And like, how serious is it to like make that something a career? Not to be rich, but just to be able to live, Yeah,
very much so. All right, man. If you don't have anything else you want to tell the people, bro, I appreciate you. Like I said, man, thank you so much for coming through and hanging out and just spending some time with me, you and your son. It was definitely appreciated. You know what I'm saying? Mr. 1.2 million on YouTube, going crazy. So, oh, you know what? You know what you usually do? And I don't think I saw it. What are your goals for your channels and all your avenues this year? Because you usually post that.
I did it. Yeah, it used to be a little bit different because my thought process was just to go for a certain number. And once I hit 1 million, I was like OCD trying to accomplish 1 million.
Right.
Like I'm going to do whatever I need to, make good content, focus on uploads, lose sleep, miss event. I was all in on hitting 1 million. But once I hit it, I was like, okay, that's it. Like, okay. So now I want to just diversify the content. I brought my brother in to help with content on some other socials. Twitter still continues to grow. I don't know how, but it is what it is. That's my favorite platform, even though it's one of the toxic.
It is the most toxic.
And
but
down the rabbit hole, people talk without experience. I mean, it is what it is. But it is. And it's a lot of fun to do that and just diversify my socials and be able to experiment with more content. I think that the streaming was the first step in, like, I know it's late in the game. Like, it feels like for amount of time I've made content, but to really get involved in streaming and enjoy streaming for a streaming and then try to make like a presence around that instead of, oh, you're just the COD guy. Because there's times where I stream 8 hours and I won't get a COD question for hours.
Lovely.
And it's like, cool.
Lovely.
Yeah, cool. You're here for me.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's
because you're not here for God of War.
Right.
If you were here for God of War, I mean, there's not even 100 people watching the game right now. Like, so it's kind of a nice dynamic to enjoy that with a community that you get to know a little bit better too.
That's lovely. Because what we always want to be as content creators is not boxed in, but just I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And I think streaming for you and everything that you're kind of like broadening to right now is a great way to do that.
Yep.
So again, thank you, brother. I appreciate the time. Appreciate the conversation. That has been the Jgod episode of the Game Recognize Game podcast. I appreciate you guys for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that sub button, turn on post notifications so you can be up to date with every video that we drop. This one was a great conversation with a great friend, a great homie, just an all-around good individual, and I appreciate him for hanging out with us. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.